understand what they're saying. So you can find it in Harper's Magazine, March 2000. Very interesting story. And this whole story was derived from a new Torah that was published in November of last year called the Et Hayim, or the Tree of Life. It was published by the United Synagogue of Conservative Jews. And in this Torah, they added in the commentary the latest archaeological research that refutes the Old Testament. Now, an interesting thing about biblical archaeology is that it's a science that's about 100 years old, and it was originally created in order to bolster the credibility of the Bible. But specifically within the last 25 years, the physical evidence has said that what existed in this book is not a fact, are now seen as, quote, an invention of Jerusalem-based priests in the 7th and 8th century BCE. Solomon and David were not the great kings that they were purported to have been in the Old Testament. They also said that the walls of Jericho, Joshua in the Battle of Jericho, well, they said that based on the archaeological evidence, the wall was only 2 feet high at the time that Joshua came there, and had been destroyed for at least 70 years prior to his conquest of that land. So the myths, the stories that we have been given are now have to be viewed through a different pair of eyes in light of the evidence that is now being allowed to circulate among the general public. And so the challenge for us is, how do you process that information? Do you categorically deny it and throw it away simply because it challenges everything that you've been taught? Or do you begin to read it and study it to understand the truth that may be in this information? It's important to understand it. Another profound statement in this new Torah was that Genesis, the book of Genesis, was, again, quoting from them, an artificial construct. It was a narrative framework created long after the facts in order to link together a series of unconnected folk tales like pearls on a string. In other words, they made it up. And so, understand the domino effect that we're dealing with. If Genesis was a fabrication, which they say it was, then it means that God didn't create the world in 7 days.